Fáilte Meg Gallery Náisiúnta na Hallapa. Today we're stood in front of Paton's view of the entrance to the Cuiraing. It's a view he painted from memory, but there are some inaccuracies there, but he's definitely managed to capture some of the dramatic elements.
It's certainly dramatic, and to me it always reminds me of geological time. You see how tiny the people are in it. And I think when we look at that landscape and realise that this is the result of land slippages, that we can see what a very short time humanity has been around compared to the time that geology has taken to shape this and is still doing so, because the road up to the Cuiraing has to be repaired every year. There's always cracks appearing in the tarmac. I always think it's a bit like a cake with too much icing on it, and the cake is crumbling. Yes, because what Cuiraing means the round fold in Norse, and I think that the fold isn't a man-made fold. I think it's the fold left by the crater of the rocks that have slid out of there and have gone down step by step into the Minch.
I grew up in Skye until I was 19. You first arrived in Skye when you were 19 and now live there. What would you say about this landscape? What were your first impressions when you came to Skye?
Well, I've been there on several occasions. I've seen it in many different lights. The first time I saw it was in swirling mist. My dad dragged us up, and I think I wasn't very impressed. I think I wanted to be amongst the people trying to learn Gaelic. This scene, when I first saw it, was reminding me of the background of Caspar David Friedrich's painting of himself looking out on a landscape. But Paton doesn't include himself here. It's as if the needle itself is taking the place of as the observer here, looking out, and it's tipping, reminding us that this landscape is still slipping.
The rocks in the foreground here, you could almost sense them rolling down underneath the people the little figures that we see moving up here. Definitely,
with ice, with the water swelling underneath, that can cause an avalanche. And with the walkers, when you're walking, you always have to be careful that the person ahead isn't going to start a land scree and knock the other ones off the path.
It's got that sort of rusty orangey hue that comes with the heather in the sort of late autumn. So you can see here that Paton has included, it's not just a landscape, but it's also a waterscape. But he features those in a way that the water itself reflects the sky in quite a luminous way.
Yes, he's made a beautiful composition out of it, with the reflected lights, the light slanting in from the low sun, and then having these lochs. There are 3 lochs on the Ordnance Survey map, and they lift the whole.
They balance it quite nicely between the sort of natural cracks and crevices of the rock formation, but he's managed, although maybe not quite accurate, he's done a good job at sort of remembering how the water interacted with the land there.
Hasn't he? And maybe there's a touch of fog as well.
Paton painted quite a few pictures of the Highlands, and not just of empty landscapes, but he included a couple of hints that human life did exist amongst these views, such as in this little corner down here we see a figure, and actually a couple more figures behind him climbing up the hill. Why do you think he did choose to include signs of life as opposed to just leaving it as an empty view per se?
I suppose it gives it scale, and maybe even exaggerated scale, and also it gives it a touch of red.
Yes. Again, it sort of comes back to the balancing of the composition. You've got that lovely sunset above, and adding a little bit of red down in the bottom left corner here, it does add sort of a nice compositional balance to it. As an academic, but also as a poet, Meg, how would you say the landscape of the Skye has influenced your work?
Yes, I suppose I've written about different aspects. I wrote about poetic inspiration, which is, I think poets speak for nature traditionally in Gaelic. Because I'm a Gaelic learner, I'm very aware of what I don't have as well as what I have loved and identified with in the culture.
And there's no one way of appreciating.
No, there's not.
Everything I grew up around and what he grew up around. People absorb the culture, the landscape, everything they've been surrounded by in different ways.
Yes.
And mourn those in different ways if they do leave or when they do leave.
The idea of the land as something living, as a female entity, I think runs at the back of quite a lot of my poems. But I'm also very attracted to the community of Skye and how people know each other in the round. You know, in the city, you're in a human environment and nothing's bigger than what other humans do. But in the countryside, there's always something much, much bigger than you, the hills. And I think it keeps the human ego at the right level.
Meg, I believe you have brought with you a poem today that you've written about this area of Skye and the Cuiraing in particular. Are you happy to share that with us?
Oh, yes. Yes, I have it here in syllabus, and I called it Trottenish. And it's the only concrete poem I've written when the shape of the poem itself reflects the subject. So I've stepped the lines down in the same way that the Trottenish Ridge goes down in steps like an escalator. Trondenish. Yn sio hir yn talw y twslachig, hir y chydd wwaifrach y crymig, hir slis na beindia sliawnachig, ceimydd ceim fat na sliag yn y chlatach, ceimydd ceim dolfa uachcyd na mara. Hig dwynias o hwla ciarn gws a charec crwau eichgyn na rwych, gws yn sŵl eichgyn mar styr y fio, homo sapiens a nochcag yn un frem y fan, is colus it na cymenen gyfilet na'n stat. And in translation, Trottenish. Here you see the land lurching, its frilled comb fragile. You see the slope of the hill slipping, step on step down to the shore, step on step below the surface of the sea. People come the world over to see the solid rock in flux, to see the earth as an escalator, Homo sapiens caught in a single frame, on steps that momentarily seemed to stand still.
Thank you, Meg, for coming here today. Thank you very much for coming to speak with me today about this beautiful work.
I enjoyed it, and next time I go up to the Cuiraing, I'll be thinking of you.
You too.